Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. As you can see on the screen, our buddy Jess Settles has made his return. Great to catch up with Jess. As always, we catch him on the road, but he's on the road in Iowa today. Our Iowa, Southeast Iowa man, Big Ten Network analyst, former Hawkeye great, 1,000-plus scorer, all Big Ten. I'll tell you, Jess, your accolades go far and wide, and your street cred through the roof with our Julia Roberts story with you a couple of appearances ago, so we'll get into all that later. But Jess, I got to tell you, as you see all of his information at the bottom of the screen, check our guy Jess out. But first of all, Jess, as always, thanks for joining us. And secondly, love seeing that smile on your face. Keegan Murray, a Sacramento King. What are your thoughts, my friend?
Well, if my smile looks decent to you, Dave, I can't imagine Kenyans and Michelle's and Keegan's and Chris's and their little sister, because that is just, it's not quite a Kurt Warner, Zach Johnson story yet. But if he can go on to do great things in the league like those guys did, it's one of the better stories we've ever seen. And to think that this kid was, not to criticize him, was just, according to most people, average in high school, undersized, not very physical. For Kenyon and Michelle to take that risk and send the boys to Daytona Beach to prep school, get a little more muscle, compete against some junior college kids, and then for Fran McCaffrey and Spearod and the gang to say, hey, if they get a little bigger, we want them. And to be able to, for everybody to have that vision, to be able to see down the road and to be rewarded like this. What a great country we live in, and what a great state. I'm just so happy for him. I know you are, and it's good to be back on your show. And like I told you before, driving a little 63 from Kirksville through Bloomfield, through Ottumwa, up to Pella. It's God's country up and down in here. You know how it is.
I do indeed. And our friend Jeff Horner on vacation, but in Kirksville, you'll see him next time. I went through there a couple weeks ago, and I do know how it is. And to your point, Chris Murray coming back to Iowa. Younger sister Michaela is at Cedar Rapids Prairie, where Kenya is now going to coach girls basketball, which you know something about, you and your wife. So it's all coming full circle here, Jess. And I do want to say this to you, though, and I had Kent McCausland on last week, and I'm going to be rerunning the Keegan Murray interview that I did with Keegan last summer and that I did with Chris in December. So you're right. I'm very happy for them personally, knowing Michelle and Kenyon as you do, and having Keegan and Chris on this show earlier this year. Love the kids, love that family. As you mentioned, it truly is a great country and world. When the good guy gets one, Jess, I think is the way we look at this. The good guy won one here. And I got to say to you, let's change the fortunes. Kent McCausland, your former teammate, and I talked last week on this show. We need to have you guys go off the ledger and not be the last Hawkeye team to make the Sweet 16. Can we change that this upcoming year? The Hawks won a Big Ten tourney title, got a lot of great talent coming back in Peyton Sanford, which I'm rerunning that show. I recorded with him a couple of weeks ago. Jess, what an impressive young guy. He's going to have a great comeback or a good season coming back this year. Chris Murray, you look at Patrick McCaffrey, Tony Perkins. I'm going to start leaving names off, and if I don't mention it, Connor McCaffrey coming back. Hawks, the cupboard is not bare, so they lose Keegan, but a lot coming back. Jess, your takeaway in a couple minutes here on the Hawks.
Yeah, there's no question. We'll have a good team again. And the Fran McCaffrey system, remember, they're going to hang 90 to 95 points on most teams they play. And it doesn't matter who he inserts in that lineup, going all the way, like you were talking about before, back to Woodbury, Gasell, Peter Jock. The guys keep coming through, and they know how to score, and that always gives you a chance to win. In regards to the Sweet 16, I don't know what to say anymore. That was just a devastating loss. There's no way to sugarcoat that loss. They couldn't defend. They played tight. Keegan got a little, I think maybe tweaked his ankle a little bit early. Nobody could shoot. It was just, Fran McCaffrey is still sick about it. It was just wasn't our team. And we lost to a team, give them credit, but they weren't in our league. And so those are games you have to win. So, I thought for sure the Sweet 16 was attainable this year. I guess I still have that wear that crown that you mentioned, and I don't want to wear anymore. Yeah. But overall, a wonderful season, and was really happy for Jordan Bohannon. So glad that he had the career that he had, and he has that legacy bank shot at the Big Ten tournament. And for those guys to win that championship, I was at a few practices. I told you early in the year, I didn't see any way that team could win a Big Ten championship at the end of the year. They couldn't rebound. They were struggling to defend. Great guys, very unselfish, but they kept grinding, pushing that pace. And boy, in the middle of the year there were a lot of people thought they were the best team in the country. Yeah. So you tip your hat, but on the other hand, you know how it is as a former player. You got to get it done in March in the tournament, and unfortunately, they didn't get it done.
To your point, there's those guys coming back feel a lot of unfinished business, and they want to win it for themselves, but also their buddies. But yeah, Aaron White coming up in a couple weeks on this show. Peter Jock, as you mentioned, Fran's got quite the run. So Jess, I want to ask a favor. Besides joining me today, would you please continue to enjoy the rest of your summer? We'll catch up with you in the fall between football and basketball as we're ramping up. And can't say thank you enough for stepping in today. It's great to see you and catch up with you. Get back to driving safely, and thank you, my friend.
I always appreciate being on, and have a great summer to all your listeners. They're some of the best in the country.
They are indeed.
I love Iowa about as much as you love Iowa, so it all works for us.
I think that is beautiful. You're exactly right. Hey, for Jess Settles, again, former Hawkeye great. You see all of Jess's information on the bottom of the screen. Former basketball playing great for Iowa Hawkeyes, one of the all-timers. Also, a Big Ten Network analyst for men's basketball. So, Jess, my friend, as always, thanks so much. We'll catch up with you soon and be back with more Hawkeye and Sean Bock from 24/7 Sports and Hawkeye Insider. Back with more Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, in a few moments.
To make the Mershman Seeds delivery experience even better this year, Mershman Seeds is offering you a brand new Apple app called Mershman Delivers. It will give you the estimated time of delivery down to the second and updates you as our truck makes its way to your dealership. Mershman Delivers will provide you the answer to the number one question we get when it comes to delivery. When exactly will the Mershman truck be here? Available on the Apple App Store. Download Mershman Delivers today.
From Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we're participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. There's our buddy Sean Bock from 24/7. You can see all his information on the bottom of the screen, Hawkeye Insider. Man, I'll tell you, Sean, as always, thanks for joining us. And wow, are you guys busy? I've been promising the viewers for weeks we've got recruiting to talk about, and we've touched on a few things, but I'm going extended segment with you today. We're going to get a solid 10 minutes out of you today because I feel like the more I talk about recruiting at Iowa basketball or football, there's more to talk about. So as always, thanks for joining us, and I know you're busy. How's everything else going for you?
Yeah, Dave, it's going well. Obviously, this weekend was pretty busy gathering information from official visitors, and obviously there's stuff that goes on behind the scenes too, so you kind of got to be on top of that stuff. So it's been hectic, and there's been a couple basketball commitments as well that have been tracked down. So it's been a busy time, that's for sure.
Would it be safe to say, and if you don't want to mention his name, that's up to you, but would it be safe to say you had an extended conversation at these basketball games you were watching and reporting on? You had a nice extended conversation with an Iowa assistant basketball coach. If you want to mention his name, you can. If not, we'll just leave it at that. But talk to us about that conversation.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of there was actually Sherman Dillard and Matt Gatens, Iowa's new assistant coach. Matt Gatens was at we're at Ridgewood High School in the north side of Chicago on Saturday. So I spent a little bit of time with them. Fran McCaffrey was there on Friday at St. Patrick's High School. Said hi to him, and obviously got to see Brock Hardy and Owen Freeman, two of Iowa's commits in the 2023 class, with Fran in attendance. So that was pretty neat to see them. And then obviously, Gatens and Sherman were watching a couple guys on Saturday at Ridgewood. So it was good to get out and see those guys. I wasn't able to get to many AAU tournaments this spring. I went to a couple, but none with the coaches there. So it was good to see those guys out there. And I know that, the guys that they're looking at are really high on their board too. And obviously the two commits, but, some of the guys that Gatens and Sherman were looking at as well.
Sean, I got to go backwards a little bit with you here. You and I were talking last summer at this time about Cooper Koch. And I even said when we had Kent McCausland on last week, and a teammate, a former teammate of Cooper's dad, J.R. Koch, of University of Iowa Hawkeye basketball fame. And I said to Kent off camera, I said, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but be sure to put a good word in for the Hawks. and Cooper. And lo and behold, we got Cooper Koch committed now to the Hawkeyes after a lot of Big Ten suitors and other big names in college basketball. You mentioned Owen Freeman, who's transferring from Bourbonnais outside of Chicago to high school in Moline to play with Brock Harding. And Brock Harding out of Moline High School then says, hey, Owen, you followed me here. I'm going to follow you to the Iowa Hawkeyes and committed. So all types of things going on. So you mentioned Brock Harding and Owen Freeman for Hawkeye men's basketball, but talk about Cooper Koch for us. I know that's down the road a little bit, but that was a big commit for the Hawkeyes and a legacy commit at that, Sean.
Yeah, no, it's definitely big. I mean, anytime you get a kid that's ranked just outside the top 50 in your class, like early, that's a very good sign. And obviously Iowa had the edge there with J.R. Koch being there. And obviously Cooper's grown up a big Iowa fan, been to a number of games his whole life, was at Iowa City, I think, maybe 4 or 5 times in the past year to talk with the coaches and kind of just see campus and, see everything, get a really good feel for it. And, Fran kind of had an advantage there too for a while. He's known Koch since he was young. Obviously Fran's been really, really involved with the alumni with the Iowa basketball program. And so JR and Fran had a relationship, and obviously Kirk Spiro as well, former Iowa assistant coach, had a great relationship with Cooper and JR. And then Matt Gatens, the new Iowa assistant coach, his father is actually good friends with JR Koch as well. So that was a big deal too, because I remember I was at a tournament in the Chicagoland. I was talking to JR for a while, and while Cooper was playing, and he was kind of just saying like, hey, who's going to be the next assistant coach? I told him, all I've heard is Matt Gatens, and he had the biggest fist pump I think I've ever seen, or one of the most dramatic fist pumps I've ever seen. So I know that, JR let Cooper kind of make his own decision, but I think at the end of the day, JR was pretty happy with the choice that his son ended up making. Like I said before, it's a big win anytime you get a guy ranked just outside the top 50 early in the class. I mean, that just sets the base for what you want. I mean, Purdue and Wisconsin were really pushing hard for him. Illinois and Indiana were involved at one point. But, Iowa was able to, use that relationship that it had, use those ties, and, the play style fit perfectly. And, it's just a perfect match.
Well, I know everybody rotates in position in college basketball today. And again, we got Sean Bock today joining us, as you can see on the screen, from 24/7 Sports. And Sean's kind enough to join us for an extended segment today for Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. And man, Sean, I'm so excited. It's been weeks. You and I talk off air on the phone and text back and forth, and you do a great job on social media updating everybody. But let the viewers know, obviously Owen Freeman, a big man, 4-5 position, Brock Harding, a point guard, and Bowen's coming in next year. He'll be a 1-2, kind of a flex guard like Tony Perkins and Ulis. Brock Harding, more of a traditional one-guard, point guard. Give us the 4-1-1 or the updates on Cooper Koch. Is he going to grow to be as tall as his dad and play the 4 or 5 position? Let the viewers know a little bit more about Cooper Koch and what he brings to the table when he's a Hawkeye, please.
Yeah, right now he's more of a 3 or 4. I think he's listed at 6'7", 6'8", still pretty thin, but he'll be able to get into the weight room and really put that needed extra muscle on. And yeah, JR is, I think, just a hair under 7 foot. Right. And I think he told me last summer that Cooper still might have the growth plates open. So I mean, if he can get to a certain size, I mean, I remember last year, I think the Iowa staff maybe compared him to a Jack Nungy type, but they've also said that, the potential on the wing with being like a Keegan Murray or Patrick McCaffrey, I don't think he's as athletic as those guys were. I mean, he's still got 2 years of high school left, but I think you saw from an early age what kind of athlete that Patrick McCaffrey would be. Not the same about Keegan Murray, but obviously he had a very rare growth spurt, and, athletically how able, he was able to, get to where he is now. And, you don't see that often. I'm not saying that won't happen with Cooper, but I think you kind of got to look at genetics a little bit with some of those things. So, yeah, I mean, he's a very cerebral type player. That's kind of the way that a lot of coaches have described him. I think the one thing that he does better than anything else right now is shoot the ball. And I've kind of seen his role early on being more like a Peyton Samford type, where he's kind of a 3-and-D type player, catch and shoot. He sees the floor really well, plays really hard on both ends of the floor. I think one of the big knocks with him was maybe foot speed and, leaping ability, but I think he's gotten a lot better at those. He's a kid that, is going to work his butt off. He is not afraid to work, and he is not afraid to, put maximum effort into everything he does. I mean, I remember there was a couple tweets that JR had where Cooper had an offer from like Illinois the night before, and the next day he was in the gym at like 5 o'clock, like dragging his dad to get to the gym. So he's one of those kids that might be cut from a little bit of different cloth, and you don't really see that a ton nowadays. But I think with him, you're getting a high ceiling type or a high floor type player who is going to contribute in some way. It's just a matter of how much. But like I said, I mean, he shoots the ball well, improving rebounder, improving athlete, really sees the floor. He kind of has to work a little bit hard to get some of his shots off because he might have some of those athletic deficiencies when he's going up against longer, more athletic wings. But I think what he brings from a positive standpoint is really intriguing. You have to be excited about that.
Sean, I got to tell you, we're actually going to go 2 segments with you. I'm going to finish up basketball here with you, and then we'll come back for a shortened segment to close the show out with you on football, because people are going crazy around Iowa City wanting to talk football. And we got all this. Who knew we'd be talking this much basketball at the end of June and July, but how great that is. But Sean, let's finish up with this. I don't want to put you on the line or the kid on the line, but we're going to repeat our Peyton Sanford interview from a couple of weeks ago that I did with Peyton. And Price Sanford, his brother, is going to be in Iowa City by the time this airs. Viewers will already know that. But talk to us a little bit about Price Sanford and what's at stake or what's at play there, please.
Yeah, he's obviously visiting Iowa today. This is Tuesday, June 28th that this has been recorded. So he's currently on campus taking an official visit. He's talking with the coaches, obviously being around the players, but he's spending, most of the time, I think, scrimmaging with the team and getting a feel for, what he can bring. And, the coaches seeing him firsthand in a closed environment, which I think would be really good for him. Right now, I mean, it looks like Iowa's in a great position. Obviously, you don't want to look too much into that stuff with Peyton being on the team, his brother, but I think that helps out Iowa in this case. And the fact that the Hawkeyes have really pushed it with Price in the last couple of months has really been important. It was kind of a, slower level recruitment to start, but, Iowa's told Price, I mean, you're the number one guy on our board. And I think that means a lot to him. And obviously Nebraska's in there as well. Drake is in there. Clemson wants to get an official visit. There's still a couple things that play. There's always a chance that a Virginia or Gonzaga calls them. But, right now I think you're feeling pretty good if you're Iowa, especially with the relationship and then the style of play too.
Well, think of that. Yeah, his older brother Peyton's going to be one of the main cogs in the wheel. And again, we're going to repeat that episode. And thank you for doing my job for you. I mentioned it early in the show and always do. Nice tagline that it's Tuesday, June 28th that we're recording this. So anything that happens, recruiting-wise or news-wise, we got to make sure, like with Jess Settles, I said it earlier, we got to let people know when and where, what we're talking about. But I think Matt Gatens' name again may come up, like with the Drake, when he left the Drake job and came to Iowa. I know he has a good relationship with Price, and I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, but Sean, it's good all the way around here. So let's run to a quick break. You and I'll come back and we'll talk football recruiting and wrap up Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. He's Sean Bock with 24/7 Sports, Hawkeye Insider. You see all of Sean's information at the bottom of the screen. Sean, you good for about 5 more minutes when we come back from break?
Yep, I'll be all good.
You're the man. Thank you so much. Back with more of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, and Sean Bock in a few moments.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Who do you trust to produce the best yield? A seed company that's chasing technology or a seed company that's writing the book on it? Hi, this is Joe Mershman. Mershman Seeds has been treating soybeans for decades, long before it was commonplace. We're the leader in technology, introducing Mershman Seeds' latest advancement in seed treatment, with an added fungicide to help produce a faster, more even emergence every single time. Who can you trust with your yields? Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. There he is, Sean Bock, Hawkeye Insider, 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports. Sean's got everything covered wall to wall with recruiting. The thing I love about talking with Sean is he knows these kids and coaches, is up to date, inside and out, day-to-day activities going on in the Hawkeye recruiting world. So Sean, you knocked it, or slam dunk, since we were talking basketball. I'll use the appropriate comparison there. Slam dunk on your talk of Hawkeye basketball and recruiting. Let's get to Hawkeye football. So much to talk about, but I'm obviously going to start, pun intended here, with the biggest name on the board, Caden Proctor. Alabama or Iowa? Get us up to speed, please. Again, as we record this on Tuesday, June 28th, get us up to speed, Sean, on what's happening with Caden Proctor.
Yeah, so kind of, go back to everything. Obviously, last summer, Caden's recruitment started to pick up a little bit, and Iowa was involved there, but there wasn't really much traction. I think there was a little bit of a, uncertainty with that, and he visited a couple times, and after that Penn State game too, the buzz was that Iowa was the leader, and that kind of dragged throughout the recruitment, continued into the spring. Oregon, Alabama came in and started to get involved. Then there was a lot of concern, after his official, once his official visits were scheduled, he didn't have Iowa on the list. But, I kind of told people, you got to stay patient because, it's only a matter of time before, things start really working out for Iowa. I mean, they're still going to be in the race. He's just been there so many times that it didn't really matter if he wanted to take an official visit. But, things changed and the official visit was granted. And, there's a lot of good buzz for Iowa after this official visit. Really hit off with commits, really hit off with guys on the team. He's been really involved with the guys on the team for the past couple months. Obviously, having former teammate and former 5-star safety Xavier Wampa as his player host was really beneficial as well. And that relationship with the coaches, too, was really important. But, Iowa sits in a really good position. I still have my crystal ball on Iowa, but, and I don't really see that myself changing that unless something, unforeseen comes up.
Your crystal ball predictions, and since you mentioned that again, viewers, do yourself a favor. And as you see there, Sean's information on the bottom of the screen, go to his social media and also HawkeyeInsider.com. Some of the predictions Sean is putting out there, or at least scenarios, most of them are playing out, and that makes us very happy as Hawkeye fans, Sean. So let's wrap up here in the last couple minutes with you to talk about the Alex Motas of the world and some of the guys that came to Iowa when they were still considering, and all of a sudden, whiz, bang, boom, they said, no, I'm going to Iowa. And so talk about last weekend. Again, we record this on Tuesday, June 28th, so last weekend, a great amount of Hawkeye recruits were in town in Iowa City. Talk about how that went, who was there. You've had more commits. Once, Sean, some of those dominoes, once they start falling, man, you can just, like your crystal ball comes clearer and clearer, other guys start committing with their buddies. It's amazing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the big commitment that they got earlier this week was Indianapolis Ron Colley, 4-star offensive lineman Trevor Lauk. The Hawkeyes beat out Michigan State there. He had offers from Cincinnati, I believe Indiana, Purdue. Michigan were involved at one point, but it kind of came down to Iowa and Michigan State. Those were the two schools that were prioritizing him the most. And, there was some Michigan State talk, but Iowa really felt confident about that since March. I went to go see him at his high school in March, and, he was kind of weary about it, didn't really know what he wanted to do. But I think that, consistent part was that Iowa was continually involved. And, when it comes to these official visits too, you're not going to get anybody. And that's a frustrating thing at times. People don't really understand that. But, Jerron Tibbs, a 3-star wide receiver from Indianapolis Cathedral, committed to Purdue today over Iowa. There was some talk of Iowa after the official visit, but Purdue, made a late push and was able to get him in the class. So obviously those are some that you want to, that kind of sting. But, there are other guys too that Iowa's sitting in a really good position with after the official visits. Talk about Detroit King, 3-star defensive end Kenneth Merriweather. Glen Ellen, Glenbard West, 3-star offensive lineman Christopher Tarek. Iowa's in a battle with Wisconsin there. You got the Hun School of Princeton, which is in New Jersey, 3-star offensive lineman Logan Holly. Iowa's in a battle with Michigan, Miami, and Oklahoma. Iowa looks really good there. You got Zach Ortworth, 3-star tight end, St. Louis University High School in the St. Louis area. Iowa looks to be in a good spot there. There's a couple other guys too that still have decisions to make, and Iowa's looking really good in those recruitment. It's just a matter of keeping at it and keep building on that momentum that you got from the official visits, because you're not going to hit on anybody, but I think there's a really good chance that Iowa can get 6 or 7 of the guys that were on campus this past weekend.
You got me smiling, Sean, because you think about all the names you mentioned, even some of those come true to your crystal ball predictions, but it's not just the battle on the field against Wisconsin, Michigan State. All this stuff happens in the meeting rooms and recruiting rooms. And Sean, I love, our affiliation here the last 3-4 years, you and me on radio, but on TV, and just a personal connection. All these guys you were talking to me about their freshman and sophomore years in high school, and you become friends with them and you followed them. It just makes it so much easier for me and the viewers to follow how you bring this all full circle for us. So a definite big tip of the cap to you as always. Great job, great relationships and conversations that you've had with these kids to keep us updated as Hawkeye fans. So Sean, great stuff from you as always. I look forward to catching up with you soon, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dave, for having me once again.
Truly my pleasure. You see all of Sean's information on the bottom of the screen. Do yourself a favor and check him out online and social media because he's got everything wired for us as Hawkeye fans. So for Jess Settles, former Hawkeye basketball playing great and current Big Ten basketball analyst, and Sean Bock with 24/7 CBS Sports and Hawkeye Insider, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. My last show with my production partner, Rob Miller from Homegrown Media. And Rob, could not have done this last year without you. Truly, thank you so much for all your help. Personally and professionally, you are the best. So to my buddy Rob Miller, Sean Bock, and to Jess Settles, I'm Dave O'Hara for Hawkeye. That's all from me. Thanks to all of you. And as always, thanks for staying tuned at the end of the program for these rolling credits to give our advertisers and sponsors the attention and credit they so richly deserve. And as always, to our aforementioned guests and to you, the viewers. That's all from us at Hawkeye. Thanks to all of you.